Okay, that should be live. There you go. Okay. Sure. Good on. Good afternoon, Rambling Geek. How you doing? How's things? So, dogs needed a walk this morning. They needed to get some energy out of them, so I decided to take them on a longer walk, which meant overrunning the beginning of the stream, but that's okay. Had a been heading down for a day, so now what to do about it? Right. Halfway there. Okay. All discombobulated today. So yesterday, on Mr. Jolly's stream, I was my just throw it together and make it work approach to drink water caught up with me, because then I was like, oh, now I felt really self-conscious once I shared the actual code. I did a bit of cleaning up, and just for good measure, I mixed the two styles as well. So I have the fluent syntax here, and then the link syntax here, and I started to think about why. Right, it's easy to say, oh, don't do that, but why did I do it that way? Some of the structures just make more sense in the link syntax than they do in the fluent syntax. Now, most teams are going to do this, right? So what? And because people start to hate this syntax, and I can see why, right? It does make this a lot more complicated. There's a lot of business. There's actually logic in here to calculate that I can't move out, and I'm using SQLite, which is a limitation. Right, so there are limited options, but also the naming, right? I reviewed the names, and started to think about what I was actually trying to build, right? So this is member preferences, by group ID, kind of. It's member info. Member info by group ID. Actually, hold on. Member preferences might be the best option there. But then the names here, right? I was using M's and X's and L's and P's and stuff, right? But the reality is it still doesn't make this query any more readable. Now I've got it smaller. Definitely. Dota, how you doing? I just merged hi and how you doing into one, but I apologize. But there's still some harder challenges with this. So what I wanted to do is start by going here, right? So is this actually a SQL console? Yeah. So we have accounts. We have preferences. Cool. Nice. We have groups. So what I should have done the other day is start with the tables, right? I highlighted. So I updated it a little bit more yesterday, Delta, just because I brought it up on BBB's stream. Not intentionally. I really meant the join the to list, but it became a oh my goodness, what is this sort of discussion. So I did tidy it up a little bit, make it a little bit more, some more meaningful names in there, but not much. It's still quite a big method. I changed this one to this style. But the problem is you have accounts, preferences, groups, right? So you have groups. Groups have memberships, right? A member is an account ID, and an account has preferences. So if you want to have all groups for you, it's not just groups you own, it's groups you are a member of as well. So that's part of the problem. The design of the data is part of the actual issue, right? And that's kind of what I was highlighting, right? We built it to achieve a certain thing, but now we need a piece of data from it. Is it achieving the right thing? Should we be needing to do this? I mean, maybe we should be, but it's worth reviewing. Like, is there a better way to store that data that makes more sense? That layer hides that complexity, though. Right, and which is right. It should do. I mean, there is complexity. You can't always avoid complexity, right? What you want to do is kind of represent what it is. And the implementation of it shouldn't really bother you unless you need to, right? So, and that's what good design is. Good design is moving the complexity away until you need to care about it, right? So, sorry. You don't necessarily want to hide it. You want to represent it. You need to know it's there, but you can't always avoid complexity. Now, again, the argument I would have with this is the fact that I'm having to write this complicated query. Is there a better way of storing the data? Are there other things I can do that will speed up this and make it more manageable, right? Such as, well, part of it is because the time zone lookup needs to be calculated, and this time zone is not able to be put inside of an actual query, right? Mr. Jones, good afternoon. I thought maybe the query is too broad for the question being asked to the repository. I mean, it might not be sat quite in the right repository. There is that argument to be made, but also just wondering if that repository name itself is broad in the wrong sense. No Godot today? No, I gotta keep on my schedule, right? It's tempting. I did get pretty far. I did get I don't know if you saw the end of it, but we did get pretty far through. Yeah. There was definitely interest. I mean, people were definitely hanging out and contributing. I'd definitely, if people are interested in the game dev side of things, that'd be pretty cool. Oh, Dota, you didn't see this, did you? You went to work. So yeah, we got the basics. So yeah, that was fun. I appreciated the contribution. I appreciated the help and the assistance. That was a lot of fun. You could teach us proper structure. I don't know about that, but having my approach to software might might change how I build a game, right? Or how I look at building a game. Does the repository need to span the aggregate? Okay, so the main goal of this project is not to try and introduce some harder concepts right now, right? The goal is to kind of get it working and allow people to kind of pick it up and work with the pieces. Hence why I went with a simplistic, but not overly simplistic kind of layered approach to the architecture, right? So it was never meant to be, let's analyze, like, let's look at aggregates and things like that to start with, right? It was meant to be, here's an application you might have actually built. Now, what can we do differently? How do we apply this? Now let's review this. And it's kind of, that's again why one of the things I want to say is, right, just because you've got this code, right, and it's intimidating, to achieve this, is there a better way, right? Right, maybe we break it up into, again, I don't think the consumption repository, I don't think it, I mean, the primary focus of this is groups, right? The primary focus of this is the groups, right? There is another repository, there is a consumption repository that is all about preferences and logs, right? This is about groups, right? So, but it kind of highlights the problem. Once you start building something called a repository, or once you start building something called a service, you kind of then start to think of things as needing to fit inside of a neat bucket, and it focuses your attention and stops you asking bigger questions, right? Like, should I? Oh no. I just realized yesterday I ordered a scone from when I got my coffee, and I was just sat here thinking I'm getting hungry, and I was like, oh no, and then the I now have a rock because it was open. I completely forgot about it yesterday. Just coding instead of eating. So yeah, when you build some, it's like controllers, right? Once you build controllers, you end up trying to narrow your design, and you start focusing on only one way of doing something, right? And it's very easy to become blinkered, and kind of focus down that path and think, well, I've got to achieve. It's this pattern. I've got to achieve it in the bounds of this. Now, let's say you're working in an existing code base. This is a harder ask, right? Because it's a refactoring that you might not be able to tackle. So, right, we naturally kind of align them. That's the problem, right? So once we start creating something like a controller or a repository, and we label it consumption repository, group repository, etc., it becomes about the thing. And if you look at the main code base, right? The main code base. It's not the main code base. It's Liquid Sky, right? The repositories here are specification based, right? So I inject an I repository project. I align a repository to a model data because there's no actual solid, there's no implementation I control there. I have to rely upon relationships and whatnot to get access to the data. So, again, on BBB stream yesterday, he was asking questions about repositories and stuff, like, because again, this is a pattern that is controversial. Well, and Connie, thank you very much for the raid. Welcome in. I hope you're doing well. How are you today? Having internet issues. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. that was plaguing him yesterday as well. Well, hi Skydriver, welcome in. So, for me today, unfortunately, no game dev. Game dev is today, unfortunately. Well, not right now, anyway. I will do my normal scheduled stuff today. We're talking about, hey, Kenny, internet issues. That sucks. Controls trying to follow nodes is similar to repository trying to copy table. Yeah, so that was what I was saying. So the repositories are a pattern that are kind of a little still controversial. For this project, I actually kind of like the use because I'm normally focused on one thing. I even saw that I successfully raided. Well, you did raid. He told me that you came in with a party of 4, so I do appreciate it. Thank you very much. And for anyone in here that doesn't know Kenny yet, Kenny's an awesome developer, all-round game developer, overlay, library, C#, Godot script. Sorry, GG script. Oh, you raided the channel with 2 viewers now as well. Well, thank you, Kenny. So yeah, the repository aligns in here right to the model, but in this case, it's aligning to a concept, but happens to be a model. Oh, this monitor. So my second monitor, after my machine shuts off, kind of flickers until I unplug it and replug it back in again. And it drives me crazy. I can see it in the corner of my eye. Oh. Not what I wanted to do. There you go. Okay. So, yeah, this method is too big. But it might be worth analyzing what the data should look like, or if there's a difference. Like, can these tables be joined differently, right? Should an account have a preferences table? I believe it should. Should groups be stored differently? And if they shouldn't, that's fine. But it's worth looking at it and saying, and questioning the organization to make sure that we're doing everything we need. Now, this query runs, and again, I was going to make everything fluent, but this messed with my head. This dealing with the grouping and then joining, etc., just messed with my head. So I'm going to give that another quick go, because I think if at least I'm consistent on the style, it'll read a little easier. This still bugs me, but yeah. So var results equals, so this would be member preferences by group ID dot join. I've never used this syntax, so but there's another problem there. Like, that doesn't need to be so heavy. Does that removes all that. So that's just a time saving. But again, that could essentially be join yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's probably clearer as well, rather than just ID. Because that's a group member, and that's their account ID. Better naming. I think we kind of reviewed that as well. Well, don't forget the Friends Razor page. The Friends Razor page is the usage. This is not, the intention is anyone should be able to pull the data, right? So whatever pattern we set is what anyone else building a UI would have to use. So it's not building, this is not building an API specifically for this UI. It just happens to be this UI right this second. So, but it does beg the question. So one of the initial thoughts I had, and genuinely, was that the groups would be the groups, and you'd expand a group and it would load the members for the group. That would cut down the complexity. Oh, you're still running. Right. Does it test that? Nowhere. Right. So if I log 24, go to the friends page, there's my 24, there's my 24. So one option would be to collapse these groups and have the friends not loaded in. And yes, this is me. I don't need to be in my own group. Right now you are. Actually, that should be easy to figure out now. Equal to group info dot. That would now limit members to. So that shouldn't show me now. Yeah, there you go. So I'm the only friend in that group, and the other friend is there. So that does lean into the whole. Well, do you build your API for the generality of the API, or do you build it for a specific UI? So the back end for front end, or whatever it's referred to as now. What if from the service point of view it's 3 queries rather than 1? Well, I mean, it is 3 queries. Yeah, it is 3 queries anyway. And that's not right. That's not. Wow, defloats 2 days in a row. You've been here at a reasonable time. Yeah, there's so many queries going on. That's the challenge, right, Dota? There's these 4 tables that make up the data that you need. So you've got preferences that stores your target and the time zone that your data was captured in. Or 5 tables. So let's start from logs. You then need the account and the preferences to get what their target is. You need the group to know what groups there are and whether you own them or not, or whether you're a member of them, so you need memberships. And then you need the sum of the logs from the day in the time zone, because there's no point, you could cache this, which would speed that up immensely, right? So you could update it for the day. So this figure here, you could potentially store the sum on the user, right? Current sum, current day. And that would speed that up a lot because you wouldn't need to go and pull logs in. So that improves that. So again, that's what I'm saying, right? Should we carry on trying to make everything fit in the query, in the data? Should we make everything fit because the data is the way the data is? Or should we accept that we might need to change the data for the good of the application, right? Repository.member preferences. So yeah, the methods exist for most of the information. So you could actually pull it together through the existing methods. The idea with the query is that you don't need to. Wife's working from home. She needs help. She needs help plugging her laptop in. Wow. So yeah, the worthwhile part here is analyzing. Okay, well, do we break this up into multiple actual executions, so that instead of, right now it's one big query essentially, but it is many queries actually happening here. So you've got a query to get the time zone info. This information is getting a bit too much because this pulls all users regardless of whether they're in this group, right? You could flip this a little bit now, because you now have this. So this could be get time zone lookup for members, right? And this could be IEnumerable. Where the heck does member IDs come from there? Oh no, it's suggesting it. Okay. IEnumerable int member IDs. Oh wow. It changed it automatically. So now you flip this a little bit and you move this here. So that query is not as intense. But then that's member preferences dot distinct. P goes to P. Oh, I can't do that because of the grouping. Ugh. We can't. The problem is you can't inline that query. So link has an issue. Well, link to where did that go? Right, move the old one down there. That's awful. There is an issue in that this cannot be put into SQL. So you can't inline that method. This has to be against a list. So this is getting the data, and then this is run separately outside of SQL. You can't inline that part. That's why I broke it out. Good or bad. No, it won't. It'll break immediately. do distinct there? No, you have to select it. Ugh. That doesn't read well. That now makes it a bit more confusing. But the problem will be if you had hundreds of members, and I know this is never going to be the problem, that without that there, this will go and get all the time zones for all the members. Is it that expensive to do that? 24 maximum? No, but it'll do it for every single member. You don't need that. You don't need that. You don't need that. You don't need that. Feels like the repository is hiding the wrong information. I'm not sure where I would put this differently. And actually, you don't need that now because that's not as slow as it once was. You don't need that. So yes, this will select a lot of records, but it'll select it'll do it at the SQL level, and it'll select a distinct list of maximum 24, right? So that can go back to time zone lookup. That reduces that complexity significantly. That doesn't matter where that happens. But this is a natural challenge, right? This is oversimplified, but it is a real thing. If you if we extract several queries, we're just calling several few methods in this function. Say each query is a method. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that doesn't need to be that. That can be for keeping it short-lived. That doesn't need to be static. That would be bad. So that's its own connection. That should happen up there now. See, this is where now I don't like this. So this using syntax, it is nice, but I prefer it when it's the first line in a method, right? The problem with that is now I've got an open connection, right? So I suppose, yeah, you could say get member references by group ID. Whoa, what the heck did you just do? You can maybe use... So the reason they introduced this syntax is because there is a natural dislike of, now I've got a problem because this is an anonymous object, so now I need to put an object type on that. I can remove that. Let's remove that. List of public record, private sealed record, is a int group ID, int account ID, int string name, string time zone ID, int fluid ounces. That's that now. So they introduced that because there's an apparent cognitive issue with nesting, right? So people prefer that. Now, if it's like this, I don't disagree. Like putting the curly braces, nesting it in there, like the further you move to the right, the harder it gets to read. And that's, again, why there's an issue with the query. Because the further you go to the right, the harder it is. So that's why they introduced that, by the way. So then... new member preferences by group, m.group ID, m.account ID, m.account name, m.account preferences time. That's a horrible navigation, but whatever. Account preferences target fluid analysis. It goes there. Okay. Just because I can't possibly live with that. Why don't you like that? Can that convert generic list to return type? Oh, what is this actually? List of grouping. Oh yeah, grouping hint. Hey Riva, how you doing? The inverted Bermuda Triangle. So, I mean, it breaks it up, but I'm not sure it makes it. Well, what benefit would making their own class be? Because again, meaningful names, they're not going to have any value sat on their own, right? So from a code readability perspective, they stick out, and you've got to understand how they're used before you even understand what they do. So making them classes, it would this is bugging me, by the way, but I think that's the best way of dealing with that. It's a local return type. Why not have the service be that layer? Well, now the service could be. Doing it this way, the service could do this combination, right? So this result here, the service could absolutely be that. Right, but this is exactly what I was saying to start with, right? We almost had all the methods we needed to do this in the first place. Most of this existed for an individual. So we're cleaning the code up, but are we improving the readability of this code? Right, I can move this in there. Trap, good morning. How are you doing? So we can move. So the service layer, it doesn't. Pokemon. Good. Hello. How are you doing? Thank you for the follow. So we can move this for certain, right? So this get groups right now is get all memberships, right? We could combine this logic in here, no problem. So maybe repositories map one-to-one with tables, but services don't. Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at, so this is another thing with clean code, clean architecture, right? So I've got a semi-clean architecture, right? It's not following along perfectly yet. It might never follow along perfectly. But the application layer, so in here, you can do certain things. But when does it become a domain service? Was kind of the measure, right? And the domain service was, okay, when it's doing a few more things together with a few other things, then it becomes a domain service. So once I started adding more repositories and needing this information to combine, that became a domain service. So it moved up another level or down another level, depending on which way you're looking, right? So it became a domain service and no longer became an application component, right? Like where's the level? Where's the measure? And it's not there's a surefire, clean way of doing this. It's what works for the code base you're in, and are you consistent with doing it? So the advice was the domain service takes up the weight here because it has, and this is my interpretation of that information, by the way. But this had a bit more involved logic to it, so therefore it became a domain service because it's more behavioral in respect to what it's doing. Here, these are very simple. They're CRUD. So most of these, apart from the events they fire, obviously they trigger more in the system. But in essence, most of these services, most of these handlers here are CRUD. They're not doing that much. Right? Associate user with tenant. It does a thing. It creates a record. Done. Right? So for the most part, if it has any behavior or logic, it ends up in domain services. If it's just straight up doing doing a thing, it's ending up in the application. Well, domain services are referenced from application. It's not that way. Domain doesn't talk to application. Application talks to domain. So I'm not trying to overcomplicate water in that way, but yeah. So that is the whole. Let me bring up the diagram. But again, it could be. It's interpreted, right? This is the problem with when we start to believe there's a solid way of doing something, or there's only one way of doing something, and we start to follow that down the path. We get blinded by it. So application talks to domain. So that's why. So domain is at the core. And again, it is behavioral. It is the thing that knows about everything else. Or it knows about the data. It knows about behaviors. So yeah, the application talks to domain. Yeah. So I'm not suggesting we do this with water, right? That's a long way away, right? But this repository here, this data, right? The easy answer is to move those queries into application. The service makes 3 calls. Yep. So this isn't an actual method. Or, well, if we make 3, so this method here requires the result of this method. Right. So we'd have to make this, to make this work, we'd have to make this method accept and a list of I grouping. Oh no. Now you get into the refactoring mess. I created a record to transfer this data. Now this has to come out of here and become an actual piece of data that exists somewhere else. So now we have to put a name on this DTO. Because if we want this this query to be invoked as its own method, we have to give it the result of this query. So it has a dependency. So is there any value in breaking this out even further? When ultimately what all we'd be doing is making the group service call 1, 2, and then pass in the result of 2 to 3 to get this same data. So right now we have it the way we need it. It's a little cleaner. I'm not sure I'm wholly on board with this design of putting this kind of internal transfer object right above the method it's with, but it works for now. Yep, that's fair. No worries. Yep, that's perfect. That's exactly the sort of, it's a log of the discussion. So I'm totally on board with that. But I appreciate it. I appreciate the conversation. I appreciate the analysis here. It's it might seem trivial. Have a good day, Word Delta. Thank you. It might seem trivial to discuss this sort of stuff, but if you're building a code base and you're building this sort of, again, I don't like services. I don't like this repository. It's not a good design, right? And again, this project, for anyone kind of looking in, this is not a, hey, look, this is a great idea for a project. This is a, let's throw it together. Let's make it do a thing. And then let's look at why we did things and how we could do them differently. And my argument with this piece here is that the data is probably not stored in the right way to support the system, right? Now, we're using a SQLite database. We're not thinking for scale here, right? We're thinking for a little project, right? And if you've not been in here before, you can go and get this project. That should work. Yeah, there you go. You can go there and get that project. Oh, that's why that's not working. So the concept is, with water, drink water, that I should be able to go, oh, what did I do now? Now I've gone and unbroked it again. Oh, do you not like creating an object? Oh. I think because I created the record in line there, I don't think it liked it. We'll test that in a second. Now, I've changed that again. Now I'm opening and closing connections, but they are very short-lived. So again, I was saying this syntax is not easy if you've got a big method. So having without the curly braces, unless it's the first line in the method, it really isn't very nice to see. There you go. So it was that. So what I did there is I got all the data together and then listed it so that this grouping happens on. I mean, it's essentially it's the same thing. It's just pulling all the data together and then doing the grouping. So this now doesn't happen in the database. Another way of doing this would be to put that back to how it was, right? And then make that anonymous again, and then select it out that way. Which might be quicker, because if it was in the group by in the database, it's going to be way faster than the group by in memory. But it's subtle. That's a subtle difference, and I think it is because of the record type. If I comment that out and put back new, then the problem there is that grouping is now horrible to work with. So the benefit is lost because now I have to work with the grouping. So now I'd have to loop through the grouping and manipulate the objects in it to get the anonymous object to go away and replace it with this member preference. So the benefits are lost there. But it's subtle, right? If you were coming up against this code, you might think, oh, I could just refactor this. And then spend good time in, or even if you think you can do it, it prefers to use as enumerable there. So basically, the way it works is if the link expression can't be compiled down into SQL, it will blow up. There you go. Yeah, not ideal. So the idea of the project is just a simple one. It has some simple goals, right? You can log your water consumption throughout the day. You can go in here and you can see your friends. You can join a group, so I can join that group, right? So now this person sees these two groups, right? The subtle difference of lowercase t and uppercase t, that is this user, that is this user. So I can see the consumption in the different groups. Okay. Yeah, punter areas. So I don't know if it adds too much value breaking them up. But how would you do this differently, right? What methods would you use? It'd be nice to see more languages support first-class ORM like Link. Have you seen, so it's not so much the language, but the framework in PHP, Laravel, I think it's part of Laravel, Eloquent, their ORM is, that's good. The as enumerable is regrettable. Well, it is because the group by happens in memory. But yeah. Well, yeah, Laravel's Eloquent is actually pretty interesting from a ORM perspective. It's you basically define the model, and then in the code, you just do something like that, and it knows it's in the database. So you can just do queries like that. It's pretty powerful. I mean, you have to deal with PHP, but it is there. So yeah, Eloquent's pretty nice. Okay, so let's commit that. Refactored to make cleaner to make. I was thinking, I'm not agreeing with cleaner here. I apologize, ads will start in a few minutes. They're a necessary part of Twitch. They run for about 1.5 minutes, but if you want me to pause at all, please feel free. So I work on Water Drink Water Mondays and Tuesdays. Yesterday was a bit of a difference, right? We did some game dev, which was fun. I had a lot of fun doing that. I intend to continue that on. And Fullbots has suggested that maybe I make that a once a week thing. I might mix that in with Water Drink Water streams so that I'm not always doing, because the problem with this project right now is we get some engagement, but there's not a lot of contribution, and that's okay. That's not why I'm doing it. I'm doing it so there's a project there. If you want to practice tinkering with GitHub, if you want to practice making a pull request, if you want to practice forking a project, you're more than welcome to. If you want to build a UI against an existing API and see the product and say, hey, look, I built this React version, or I built this, Angular version, or I built this Vue version, right? You're more than welcome to make a contribution and make a different client version. You just put it in the clients folder, and you have to make it run with a .NET API, but that shouldn't be too difficult, right? I love having these examples, by the way, to reference good ways to put things together. I wouldn't say it's good. It's a way. This is a project you can tinker with, you can play with, and it's there. So that, and again, it's on stream, so we can talk about it, and we've got a reference, and I think that's helpful. If you can go to a piece of code and say, well, hold on, this is doing this here, and I say, oh, well, it shouldn't be. Let's review that and let's change that, right? So that's why Water Drink Water exists. But I don't want to spend a great deal of my time putting the energy in, and then not have any use for it, right? So, and it's a problem with stream projects, right? People have lives and their own work. It's not tied to JetBrains, is it? No. That's 1 second. Let me commit this, and I'll go back to that's actually IPAC's brought up that issue before, because I use Rider on stream, that people may be concerned that it is linked to JetBrains. It isn't. I can open this in Visual Studio. I removed it from my bar yesterday in disgust. But there is an outstanding issue on there. One of getting started with Visual Studio Code. So I don't use Visual Studio Code. So if anyone wants to pick up that and do that and add to the README, or create a new Markdown document and link it from the README, we can start building the wiki out eventually. Yeah. So it's not tied to it. I just don't know how to get VS Code set up and doing that right now. So that's a contribution option. But it does build in Visual Studio. There's no issues with it. It's a standard .NET project. You do not have to have Rider. And the only piece that's included that is not there's the issue. Ads are starting. I apologize. The only piece that's included, what was I going to do then? Oh yeah, I was going to look at the code. Yep. Is this piece, which I still need to remove. I need to remember to remove. And Rambling Geek added this piece. This is a Code Rush. This is a Code Rush specific folder. I don't use Code Rush. But yeah, when we merged Rambling Geek's issue in, that came in there. So that's the only. I have, there's in the git ignore. There's an ignore on the idea folder, the .idea. There should be one on the .cr as well, basically, because those are kind of preferences for your tooling. No, we still don't know why that got into there. It shouldn't have done, I believe. But it is what it is. I'm not really going to panic over that, but it's worth noting. We can remove it eventually. It's not hurting anything. It doesn't change anything. Yeah. So there are instructions on forking the project, and Rambling Geek again helped with getting started working and testing the things. There's several issues out there, and so maybe coming back on that point, maybe I make 1 day game dev, 1 day water drink water, and then 3 days my main project. I'm not going into the main project because that is my my longer term goal. So, but in the same, I don't want people coming to the stream expecting game dev and me doing other things, or stream more days. That is an option, I suppose. But my wife may disagree with that one. I used to stream in the evenings, but I can't do that with karate because I can't get back from a karate class and then sit and code for 2 hours. You just have me asleep all the time. 24-hour streams back to back. Stream karate. No one wants to see that. We need a laugh. I was sparring with a woman yesterday, and it's kind of light sparring, but you still hit each other. And I brought my fist over and just missed her face, but also brought my fist back. So, and if she'd not moved out of the way, I would have literally punched her in the head on the way down and then slammed her in the face on the way back up. We both had a moment of, uh-oh, sorry. So, well, I'm one of the biggest in height and weight. So it is you either get people who are scared of you or people who are not scared of you, and there's no in between. There's no like, yeah, I'm happy to fight you. There's just like people who will run away or people that will just put it on you. So yeah. Another thing as well, creating a set of these HTTP requests would be good as well, to test the endpoints out, right? So things like integration testing, that's something that would be worthwhile. Maybe I start bringing them up a bit. So there are some unit tests in here. And again, nothing in this project is aimed at saying, hey, here's the right way of doing it. It's aimed at being, here's a way of doing it. Let's talk about it, right? So, and I always want to make that clear, because if you're working on a group project, then the rules change. You shouldn't be working your own way and just assuming everyone else will follow you, right? People have, and that's how inconsistencies appear in the code. You end up with naming conflicts. You end up with stylistic conflicts. So, the unit tests are roughly here. There are some around it. Again, most of this application is actually query right this second. There's not a lot of actual creation, and testing queries is not best done through unit testing. But there is what do I want to look at? There's a few things I want to look at in terms of testing. Playwright would be one of them. Very good point. The rules do change as a group. They do, and you should be willing to adapt or change, but again, be consistent. And that's all that matters. Again, software, as long as it's working, there's no real wrong answer. But can you maintain it? Can you happily work in it? If someone says, and that's my my point to Dota earlier on when he mentioned, maybe breaking out those methods as classes, right? What does that class mean on its own? How do I read that? How do I understand that? I have to have context to the application, so there's no real benefit in splitting out as a class, right? So can you work in the code base is a good measure. So Playwright is something that I would want to look at as well. Now, end-to-end testing is a whole challenge. That's for UI. That's, can I click this? Can I do that? So can we introduce something like this, right? Maybe we test it. Maybe we do that today. Got a little while. The other one would be test containers. Doesn't really apply to that. Quite the drastic difference in design, right? Green text, white text on a black background to what white and purple. So test containers doesn't really apply to this project because we're not doing anything of substance with external services. Part of the reason why Water uses the SQLite database is so that it is portable. You can check out that code. You should be able to run the code with very little effort. You shouldn't have to worry about, I need to set up this service. I need to set up this service. That's where Water has its limitations, right? It has a scope that is simplistic enough to demonstrate, but simplistic enough that it's not going to expand to a real architecture. So test containers would be something I'd use for the main project. So Playwright might be something we tinker with in the future. MS test or NUnit. That's interesting that they chose those two. So this assumes this goes to the page. We can validate things on the page. Oh man. I did not get a lot of sleep. So this might be something we kind of take a look through and stumble through. Maybe we'll do this next week. I want this group thing to be dealt with first. The setup is a bit nightmarish for Playwright last time I looked. Stream went tired. Thank you for the positive affirmations today. I know you use Playwright. There's a lot of PowerShell scripts running. Okay. Install required browsers by replacing NetX with the actual output. Angular has Cypress and Puppeteer. Yeah, bro, sorry, I do not have children, so I'm still a child at heart. I sleep though. Well, I'm trying to fill my days. Day starts at like 5:30. Stream for 2 hours from 7 to 9. And then work till 6, then go karate. Do karate, get home. And, yeah. Those are my days. So that's why I don't stream on weekends very much or very often. But, yeah. So Playwright seems to be very popular though. So maybe we'll give this a go next week. We'll start on this on Monday, and maybe go off a Playwright. And I'm open to other suggestions. If there's other technologies, if there's other things that people want to see done in Water or maybe investigated, it's what the project's for, right? The project is for trying to do new things with it. Time we're on 8:30. Okay. What do I'm trying to think about what I can realistically do, because we need to move. We need to decide to move on from this grouping thing, right? So the story there is not in progress. Why didn't I create an item? I created an item for it. 45 return user progress. Oh, I don't like that. It moves out of the repository and doesn't give you a navigation back into the repository. 45 in progress. Watering water. That's that project. So I'm just attaching the right things to it. Yeah, so that's that one that's in progress. So we need this kind of done, and it is working. Right. So we do have the progress being returned, which is good. So maybe that becomes let's talk about that tech debt. Is it tech debt? Well, it is tech debt. But I think it would be part of a larger reorganization. I just want to give Delta the chance to have a look. So we can have, because it will create more conversation around that piece. So, but then we'll move on. We'll move on next Monday with this and maybe have a look at Playwright. And maybe we'll confirm, like they said, a nightmare of PowerShell scripts. So what other options are there for end-to-end? Selenium. Right. Wow, that got a little bit. Selenium IDE. Okay. That's interesting. Oh, so it goes into Chrome. Huh. Does that mean? An IDE in the browser. We are currently using SpecFlow for BDD, but that is going the way of the dodo. I remember using SpecFlow, yeah. It's interesting. What would you like to do? Create a new project. Project Bob. So rather than create a downloadable Electron-based application. They created it as a plugin to Chrome, which is, it makes sense because it runs in Chrome, right? Yeah. So if we do localhost 7077, and you test, can I log in? Okay. Save. Save it there for now. So it captured all my input. Okay, that's pretty cool. That's that. That's that. Oh, trying to find email. Oh. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's already logged in. There you go. Stop execution. That'll be better. That's interesting, though. From a shouldn't it have cleared cache? Because shouldn't it be isolated? Isn't that the purpose? Because that's already logged in, so that's the problem. It opened the new browser. But I mean, that's not bad. That should be doable with a little bit of work. Okay, so let's remove that one. Delete. Add a test. Well, it opens the browser. That's the problem, right? So when I record, oh, now I've done something. Delete. Project Bob. Oh, it already has the URL, but it opens the browser. It controls that. I don't get to open the window, so it opens a regular window, which seems odd. Yeah, but anyway, that's not really the focus right this second, right? So I posted a link in Discord to my project using Blazor WAS and Git pages and Git Actions to automate player tests. Oh, nice. Check that out. Hi, iPads, how you doing? So you got playwright tests automated in here. Tests. Oh, nice. So don't mind the written out style. And how did you find Playwright, About? I mean, you obviously get it working, but startup. Google. I don't mean. How did you find it? What did you think of it? What sort of experience did you have in getting it set up? Was it difficult? Was there any sort of like major challenges to overcome? I know Fritz had a time trying to get it to work. And I think with things like this, they're kind of out of our normal wheelhouse, right? So, yeah, it is amazing. I did work with Selenium 10 plus years ago, and it was a pain. Playwright does seem to be becoming more popular, though. Nice. Use Playwright at work. Using the Docker container helps a lot to do CI. We also use the sharding features, which is really cool. Shranhorn, good morning. How you doing? That's cool. Playwright test. So you create a new container. Now, that's going against. That's not a container of the application, is it? That's just the Playwright part. So this is running headless browsers to connect to an existing site. Blazor wasn't. Oh, deploy Blazor wasn't. .NET build. Tests. PowerShell. Where does that get configuration from? Oh, the tests have the. No, that's. So this is relying on the app settings of the actual test to pull the data. That's the site it's going to go to. Okay. Hold on. Defaults, isn't this what you're trying to do? Isn't this exactly what you're trying to do? In a way, yes. Goes to GitHub after it runs the Playwright test again. Okay. Rewrite the Angular into Blazor. Okay. You could just accept that Angular is better. Rather than trying to call Angular out to Blazor. Okay, I'm not getting very much done here, am I? So tomorrow, back to Liquid Sky. I did that last week, so that needs to be committed and merged. I was removing the project and starting to move forward with the actual application. Water in water, we get the grouping thing. We'll give Dota the chance to come up with some ideas on how he might do that. When in doubt, rewriting Blazor is always the right answer. With some developers I work with are discussing kind of how to update the code, and like, well, we should write all new components in React. And I'm like, yeah. Even I would take that option if I had the option, but I do not. So I'm a little afraid of trying to introduce React components into an application that's kind of a mix of other technologies. Like just whacking React components in pages doesn't necessarily make them easier or more maintainable, right? Like it comes down like updating a legacy code base. So, a legacy code base, most applications, once they hit production, become legacy, right? Once they become built upon and invested in, the legacy. The only reason I did not push for Blazor on our front end is because I don't like front end, and I would have been the owner. I mean, isn't all of React just devs rolling out of a boot camp and start whacking React components? Isn't that a jam? I'm going to guess there's a bit of a stereotype there. Defaults. There's Angular elements. But you're building an application. Let's say you built it on AngularJS, right? And it's a large application, many months many years in development. What do you do? How do you build it on Razor? What steps do you take to move it forward? Let's say you build it on Blazor. Let's say you built it on AngularJS in 2015. I don't think Blazor was Blazor even a twinkle in Microsoft's eye at that point? $2018. Well, the funny thing is that AngularJS app was a rewrite of the SQLite application. But what do you do now? How do you update an application in 2024 that's been around for 9 years and move it forward? Genuine question. I would be interested in opinions on how would you do that. And that's just the front end. The application back end is built in .NET 4.8. But that's a little simpler. But how would you introduce newer technology? What steps do you take? Right. It's easy to say rewrite, but rewrite costs money. So rewrite is off the table. How do you improve? How do you improve things? I probably do the same thing. Step 2, rewrite. Step 3, profit. But how do you integrate that? How do you deploy that? Right. We did a rewrite, but we're using YARP as a whole info reverse proxy and pulling small parts to update and proxy the pages. So you've got an application. Actually, it's not. Essentially, you've got a front end that is hooked tightly to an API, right? the application is not modular. It's not built in a modular way. Right? How do you replace? Let's say you've got pretty complex pages. Let's just go with that. Like, it's hard. It's really hard, and the rewrite is obviously the easier way because then you don't have to worry about what's there. Yep, that's what we have to. It was not. We started adding new features that could not be created in the old platform. That's a good selling point, though. That's a very good selling point for introducing new technology, because it's like, we cannot do this in what we've got, but here's a plan for how we get it in what we can do, and then here's how we move forward. Right? It's hard to sell to the business to do that sort of stuff as well. So a lot of old still in place, but the new platform has touch points that migrate and sync data. So would you? Now the way I'm building Liquid Sky is making me think more about things like API gateways and stuff. New features I might actually be tempted to build as a separate component, and have the API gateway deal with the rest. Like, slide it in and allow new requests to go to new code. Everybody's gaga for new and shiny. New is easy, legacy is hard. It always is. And how many times have you gone and look at someone else's code and thought, I have no idea what this is doing, and it's taken you a long while to get into it, right? But and that's why legacy is hard, because you've got to go and understand someone else's reasons for doing things. Wesley, hello, how you doing? Right. So you've got to understand other people's reasons. You've got to get back in the head of, and most code is not written cleanly enough to just follow along with, right? Legacy is hard, especially when your database is Salesforce and Postgre, and nobody knows how each system works, as it was created by rolling teams of contractors. Tell me how I know. Ooh. Good. Looking slightly, but wanted to say at least hi. Thank you. Hope you're well, Wesley. Appreciate the luck. Yeah, I remember when I first started at my previous place and did that refactor, that rewrite, getting the application to a good place to start with was priority number one, right? Taking what was there and shoring it up and making sure that it was more stable was the first challenge. And in doing that, increase the knowledge of the developers working in it to understand, here's how this works, here's how this data works. Because if you're just replacing pieces, if you go into a new place and you're just replacing components of the code, you might not have enough context of what it's doing. So business rules, reasons for code existing are lost a lot of the times. Unless those other people have gone through and heavily commented, which always documents systems very well. Lucky for me, my CTO did that before I joined, so I could focus on just helping to create the new platform. Yeah, you definitely seem to have found a good fit for you. That's for certain. That's cool. Yeah, working in legacy systems is hard, and it's a hard sell to say, oh, let's just start a rewrite. I've seen rewrites. I've seen successful rewrites. I've seen failed rewrites. I've seen misstarts. Because it's not just replacing what's there. It's stopping and questioning why is there, what's there. Do you still need that technology? Do you still need that screen or that reason for that code existing. So it becomes very difficult to build a new system unless you copy what's there, and that's kind of not always the right thing. If you have users that are no, code should be self-documenting. But you don't like the idea of littering the code with comments? So far, our rewrite is going well. We just started on the core feature of the platform after 2 years. But that's the point, right? That's a company that's embraced the idea that they need to do the rewrite. And they're committed to doing it. But it's a scary ask, especially if your company is chasing funding, etc. That rewrite is a lot harder to do if you've got something that's stable, right? Stable could be, like the duck analogy, right? Looks all nice and calm on top, but underneath it's paddling like heck. But yeah, it's hard to do rewrites and to look through what's there and understand the reasons and the join and the where does the data come from? What does the data mean? And should that data be there? Should if you're building new components, I'm just going to say Salesforce does not scale. Having worked with Salesforce a few times throughout my career, I would never willingly choose to go into doing Apex development. That's for certain. And interacting with Salesforce, I've never enjoyed. So it's a massive platform. It's extremely flexible in terms of it can kind of capture anything, but that flexibility comes at a great cost as well. In that there's an entire ecosystem of developers built around it. I agree with that. I've seen and worked on Little and said never getting me in there again. Yeah, I've worked on integrations with, passing data in, getting data out of Salesforce. I've created APIs and worked with Salesforce devs, Apex devs. And it just seems like a bit of a mess. So, yeah. Oh well. Okay. So, Ipax, thank you very much for sharing this. Appreciate the share. Well, we'll definitely. I think we'll start next Monday with some testing. What is the Water Ink Water short summary? So, short summary: Water Ink Water is a small application created only on Stream to be a reference application for people to join in on, right? So it's a stream-based project. The simple idea is it's tracking your water consumption. So you can say, hey, I drank 10 ounces of water, right? And you can create groups and your friends can join the groups and you can kind of see how good they're doing on their water consumption for the day. And the ultimate aim will be to put something like Signaler in here and do like push notifications, like ping them and say, hey, you need to drink more water. You're falling behind, etc. Ultimately, the app is basically an open source application. I only develop it on Stream. I never touch this code offline. Actually, with the exception of yesterday with a group, but that was only a question. We could discuss concepts, we could discuss problems, right? Concepts such as, okay, well, we're tracking fluid ounces. Should we be tracking fluid ounces, right? Do we want that to be milliliters or whatever, right? So what does it involve to introduce
a different conversion there, right? Time zones was a good conversation. It highlighted to a lot of people why you need that time zone, right? What are you tracking? How do you determine what a day is? Your day and my day might not be the same day. So when we have friends and stuff, what does that mean? So it allows us to discuss some things like that. The code base is all open source. It is available again here. There's no set goal. There's no set requirement of, hey, we need to finish it. The only thing is, if you want to contribute, you can contribute, but there's no, hey, that's bad, don't do that, or here, I fix it all for you, I redesigned the entire data layer. That's a bad commit, because it's not beneficial to anyone for you to go off and do that sort of thing. So it's meant for discussion, it's meant for contribution and collaboration, right? So if you want to practice doing pull requests, you can pick up a small issue and you can do a pull request, and you can see how that flow goes, right? You fork a branch, you do that. So if you're trying to get into that sort of stuff and you're trying to learn how to do it, this project is something that you can tinker with. If you're new to .NET, there's things in here that are simpler, there's things in here that are harder, but we can talk about them, and we have reference of the application. And that's the focus, right? It's like, there's no right or wrong, there's no good or bad, as I say there, but making a PR doesn't mean it'll get merged. We'll review it on stream and talk about it. So yeah, it's just to join in. It should be easy to check out and build, and anyone's more than welcome to take it and do what they want with it, right? When you involve more people around the globe, it gets more complex already with basic things. But it's not just about involving more people around the globe. It's the simple assumptions. And Secret Pie, hello, how are you doing? My apologies. Welcome in. There's assumptions, right? As an American, I measure everything in fluid ounces. So I go to fluid ounces. Well, hold on. It's not very European friendly then, right? Because what about milliliters? Or it's not very rest of the world friendly either, but we won't go there. Yeah, it's going. How's it going? It's going well. Yeah, we're kind of been tinkering with this, talking about some different concepts today. Covered a bit of testing and link syntax and all sorts of stuff. So for those new to the stream, this is a project I do on Mondays and Tuesdays. I work on this project only on stream, and the idea is it is a project to talk about. It's a focus that, if we want to look at specific code or practices or whatever, we can look at those and kind of have discussion going around them. What about Martian unit? Exactly. How would you do that, right? So there's all sorts of discussion available. So if you want to, ask a question about something, you're always welcome to ask a question. That's fine. If you want to develop a UI against an existing API and have people to ask about why something is the way it is, you're more than welcome to build a different UI here. So I've built this Blazor app, but that's not the only UI. It's built so that you can use the API to build another app. So if you want to check it out and build a React or a Vue or a Svelte or whatever application, you add it in there and kind of follow this rough convention, and we can review it, right? We can say, hey, why did you do this? How did you do that? Right? So the project is there for everyone to kind of tinker with. So I do that on Mondays and Tuesdays. Through the rest of the week, I am building an application for tracking, for work tracking, or agile project management, as I put it. So if you've used tools like Jira, Monday.com, or on the simpler side, Trello, I'm building a platform based around those sorts of concepts. And the idea of this application is, I believe the developer is bogged down in a lot of administration stuff because the tooling is heavy. And the tooling is not ideal. The Suffering, thank you very much for the follow. Welcome in. There's no PM, no sprints. So sprints, etc. exist, right? So with the Agile platform, what I'm focused on is a little bit heavier. So Liquid Sky is its code name. It's a lot of moving parts. So there's a lot of technologies involved here. Kafka, Service Bus. We're using Mediator. So there's a lot of CKRs. PM. Water, drink water. No, we're not aimed at getting anything particularly done. If more people contribute, then maybe we kind of do set some goals, because the problem I found in the past with doing stream projects is if I set expectations on people, then people definitely won't contribute, because that's not fair, right? Because life. So Water Drink Water is very flexible in terms of that's because, again, that's a practice that would be harder to follow if there's no guaranteed contribution, right? If there was an actual team working on it, that's a different thing. So yeah, Water Drink Water is very much, hey, I want to ask a question about this. Okay, let's talk about it, right? Why do we do it this way? Or why don't we do it this way, right? It's designed to be that way. It's a simple concept with some difficult components. And we can tinker with technologies, etc. So Water Drink Water is very much open to everyone. There's a list of things that people could pick up if they wanted to do, if they're interested. You can also add what you want. So yeah. The Agile platform stuff that I'm working on, that I'll be doing tomorrow as well, is a little more involved. So this project is aimed at being how do I put this? Okay. So this project is, as a developer, when you're building software, if you're building it on your own, it's a lot of fun. You can just write code. You don't have anyone to account to. If you're working in an organization, people ask you for things. People expect you to follow a timeline. Tools like Jira, if you're following Agile practices, tools like Jira exist, and the aim is to try and gather the information and display, here's where we are with the work. So your point stories, etc. And in an ideal world, everything flows through, you get a release done, etc. But the problem I found is that getting people to tell you what they actually need before you start developing it is a big challenge. And when you've got a business that's constantly trying to innovate, trying to add new technology, trying to add new things to the software because it's a product they're selling, a lot of stuff comes in and not everything gets done. A piece of work might be sat there for weeks or months or whatever, not being used because it's been backlogged because of something else coming in, right? And that work all goes into the product backlog and sits there. And a developer might be like, asked, where are we with this? What is this doing? Well, what about this project, etc. And there's not a lot of visibility and notifications in tools like Jira. So what I want to focus on is the gathering of information first. So way before the developer gets to it, right? Guide the product team through the process of gathering information, compiling that information into meaningful ways, having the right discussions with developers, and agreeing with the developers on what stories look like. So the planning section of this application is completely independent of I don't have it open. Localhost 5000. The planning section is completely independent of the rest of the application stack. So planning happens in here and development work stories happen over here. So at some point, planning will promote items to be stories. So the way this works is the planning item might be customer requires new dashboard widget, customer likes all the widgets, right? 05 2024. And what this is an assign date. Why are you not letting me select users? That's why that's not working. So this is a review date, sorry. So what I'm introducing is the concept of a review date. A review date is a non-optional field. It will always be required to be in the future while something is active. And this will alert people that care to the fact that this item has sat here and is now not been reviewed. So people can subscribe to stories, to planning items, to everything in the system and be alerted to the fact that it hasn't moved or it hasn't been updated, or the opposite, can be alerted to the fact that it has been updated. That's not going to work, is it? I've broken something in the process. Oh, that won't work because this won't let me select a user, but yeah, okay. So I've got a problem with some data in the backlog, in the background somewhere. Tenant users. Oh, that's why. Okay. Did that actually save? No, okay. So the goal is, let's see if this actually now offers me. I brought the data because I was, there we go, Jeffrey Winkle. So need more widgets. Widgets are, that's 04, oh, no, 05. There's no validation on this right this second, so, because this UI is not one that I want to go with in the end. Why are you not saving? I don't know why. I removed everything but that I didn't remove that. Okay. So business requirements, yeah. The goal is to make other people do the work, to gather the information and give them the right tools to do it, right? That's what I want to focus on. Widgets are us 05 2024. Winkle. There you go, that was better. So we get a widget, we can go in there and we can add requirements. Requirements involve, this is just a basic outline right now, but basically this is, hey, should see new widget button. The widget button, and this is meant to be, this will be a big block of text of it eventually, and you'll be able to attach screenshots and mockups, etc. Should be on the screen, right? So you can add requirements, and requirements can have attachments such as screenshots, documents, etc. And then review this with the developers. And this is kind of, this might be what the product manager says is a story. But when you review it with the developers, and you know, if you've done this process, you'll know what I'm talking about. You're like, well, hold on, that's 3 stories. That's not one story. No, we need to break this, and this need to be one story, and this other needs to be another story. So you take the requirements and you're able to build the stories out off of the requirements, even if it comes from one planning item. So from a planning perspective, they get what they want. From the story perspective, the developers get what they want. So it's very much driving that conversation, making sure that happens, but avoiding the developers having to do very much in terms of, oh, well, where's that sat? Is it just a wish list in the backlog? Right? It doesn't make it to the stories until the developers agree. In theory, I know that can be bypassed. So yeah, the project management part is progressing, and this is what I'm building out right now. And last week I had to do some refactoring. That reloaded. Kafka's not running. So the problem with a distributed system is when the distributed system doesn't distribute, there's challenges there. So this is the other project I do on stream. And I do this 3 days a week. And yeah, that's the Agile project platform as well. So anyway, okay, so ads are about to start, but I do need to get breakfast and stuff. My intention was to stream a little longer today, but I don't want to switch focus again, and I might start another stream up in a little bit with some game dev stuff, but not guaranteed. So we're going to raid over to Sorcery Story because she is developing an awesome game. And then I will be back tomorrow with some of this larger platform stuff. There is a Discord if anyone's interested in joining. You can ask questions about watering water. You can engage in more conversation there. I'm always open to talk about software development. I do love doing this, right? This is kind of my passion. And I want to get better, right? I'm not perfect. I'm not the best developer in the world. I struggle. I'm not scared to admit that. There is a link in the panels below, OneVan. There's a Discord link down there. I don't think I actually set up the streamer bot, but that's a good reminder. I'll remember to set up Discord. So there is a link in the panels below if you want to join Discord. And again, more than welcome to join. I'm always open to talking about software. There's some conversations in there around Agile platform, pointing, etc. So, little deep conversations here and there. But yeah, so let's raid over to Sorcery Story. Thank you very much for joining me. Thank you very much for hanging out. It's been fun. And I will see you again tomorrow. Take care, all.